Hello and welcome to this video. It's been absolutely miserable here in the UK for the last few days. Cold, wet, damp, really horrible. Woken up today, just stepped out the house, and it's absolutely beautiful. The skies, as you can see, blue. All the colours are coming out. It's absolutely wonderful. And I'm just finishing off my walk around the park. And then I'm going to be going off to a record fair. I'm meeting Mr. Steve Gould in a minute, and then we are going up to Wolverhampton to KK's Steel Mill, which is a music venue, great music venue up in Wolverhampton. And every couple of months they have a great record fair. And I like this record fair because it has the cheap boxes where you can pick up records for £5. I don't like spending a lot of money on vinyl. I think it's ridiculous how much some of the vinyl is going for now. But it just proves that there's a market for vinyl still. And it proves there's a market because there's a record fair on. People want to buy vinyl. They want to own the products. They're sick of having to be able to, stick some headphones on the little bloody iPhone and listen to some bloody streaming service. We don't want it. I want to hold something in my hand. Anyway, I've just walked down the road, as you can see. It's bloody loud down here. I hope you can still hear me. But I'm going to go and go up with Steve, buy some records. I've set my limit. And then when I get back, I will go through those records with you. And this time it's going to be different because I'm going to do a little bit of research on each album to see what I can find out, so make it a little bit more interesting. At this point, I have no idea what I will have. That's what's interesting. You're watching a video about a number of albums that I have no idea about at all. So let's see what happens. That's always the exciting bit. It's like being a hunter. I feel like a primeval man out on the plains of wherever they lived, looking for some great wildebeest to bring down with my skills. But in this case, in the modern world, my skills aren't being able to chuck a spear or shoot a bow and arrow. My skills are the ability to know about records and know what I like. So it's all about what I like. Anyway, I'm going to make a move, and I'll see you on the other side when I should have some albums with me.
Perfumery, stationery and leather goods, wigs and haberdashery, kitchenware and food going on. First floor, telephones, gents' ready-made suits, shirts, socks, ties, hats, underwear and shoes going on. Second floor, carpets, travel goods and bedding, materials, soft furnishing, restaurant and cheese going down.
Hello, I am back from the record fair, and I had a very good day. Now, my original intention, as I said, was I was going to go and buy 6 or 7 albums, at the most probably. I was going to go and do some proper research and use those as a sort of a bed to create a video about these bands, and bring a bit of randomness into the discussion. But the truth is, I had a very strange time when I got to the record fair. As I walked in, there was a jazz fusion section right in front of me. I wandered over, started thumbing my way through, and they had a vinyl copy, original Polydor copy of Where Have I Known You Before by Return to Forever. Now I have that on CD already. But I thought it'd be nice to have a vinyl copy because I've never liked the CD transfer. And I'm not too sure whether there is a decent CD transfer out there. Where Have I Known You Before? I haven't come across one. It sounds jarring to me, and I thought I'd like to know what the vinyl sounds like. So I pulled it out, and it was a bit scruffy and scratched, this album, and I thought I might get this for under a tenner. So I handed it to the man. I said, how much is that? And he hadn't got a clue. He walks off, goes onto the internet, and he said it's worth £50, £50. That's around about $60 or whatever it is. I was like, what? And he goes, well, I'll do it for 30. And I thought, it's not worth 30 quid. It's not worth 30 quid. Even if it's worth 30 quid, I ain't paid for it. I've got it on CD. So that price to me is not attractive. And I walked away a little bit like, bloody hell, why do I come to these things, And then I wandered over to this box that said albums £2 each. They were like $3 each, something like that, probably less than that. And I thought there'll be nothing in here. And as I started to leaf through, there was a ton of stuff in there. So I ended up buying a whole stack of stuff from this. Then I found a £5 box and another £5 box, and I ended up buying in this place. I spent £40 there. And I picked up a couple of albums the day before in a record shop that we will be going to visit on the channel in a couple of days, hopefully, with another YouTuber that also does stuff like that. That's quite exciting. So as you can see, I ended up buying that many albums at this record pair for 40 quid. So the idea that I'm going to research any of these is not going to happen. But what I can do is go through them, tell you what I do know about them, why I bought them, and you can. I know you guys love this. Now I've got to go over here a little bit like that, so I've got a space to hold them up as we go. So you're ready to go through my haul? It's a big haul, and anything you know about these albums, stick it in the comments, because some of them I know all about, but this first one I bought, I know a little bit about, but I had to buy it. It's this album, Exception. This is a Dutch band that came out in 1969, and they had this idea of doing sort of rock versions of classical music and orchestrated music in a certain way that was very, very groundbreaking in 1969. On here we have a sort of psychedelic rock version of Beethoven's Fifth. We have Dharma for One by Jethro Tull. We got the Saber Dance by Khachaturian. We've got Air on a G-String by Bach. Now, this is a strange and yet psychedelic album. It often gets classified, and it was in the shop I went into, as being an early jazz rock fusion album, when actually it's a very, very interesting early prog stroke jazz fusion. It's almost like of its own thing, right? So, yeah, that's it. Now, the Dutch band, we've got a whole bunch. Have I got to read out all the people that are on this? Because they're Dutch names. I'll show you the back, shall I? I went and put it on, and it's one of these albums that is, it's like, it sounds a little bit like a Dutch version of The Nice. That's the only way to describe it. I think it's just the level of virtuosity and the application of classical music into this context that was so interesting at the time. But musically, it's quite strange, and I do love it for that, right? So we now go from something I don't know much about to something I know absolutely everything about, because it was one of the first albums I ever bought. I think when I owned 12 albums, back in the early days, this is one of those albums, and I've lost it as time's gone on. It's this, Rainbow Rising by Rainbow. Came out in 1976, I believe. It's the second album by Rainbow. This is where he sacked off the members from Elf and he put his own band together, which, that's the band there. Look at that, I got the gatefold. When I originally had this, I had it in a double album that combined this with Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, the first album. And so this section had that in. And when you opened it up, I think it had the back covers of both albums in there. But my friend had this, and I used to go and look a bit jealous that she got the gatefold, because they actually look really cool there. When I was 12, I thought they looked really cool. We all know what this album is. It's one of the greatest rock albums ever made. It's Rainbow's greatest album. It's possibly Deep Purple's greatest album, if that makes sense. It contains Stargazer, which is progressive rock. It's the beginning of new wave of British heavy metal. It's the beginning of prog metal. It's the beginning of neoclassical music. It's about a bloody wizard who builds a Tower of Babel so he can fly, and he can't do it. King Canute Starling ends up falling to the ground. Little Ronnie James Dio is working his way as some slave to this master, and they can't believe to see this person fall to his death. That's what it's about. And there's not many rock songs with that sort of subject matter. It's one of my favourite albums of all time. The cover's amazing. I had a t-shirt of this when I was a kid. I also had some underpants of this with a fist on the... No, that's not true. Right, stop being silly, Andy. You've been serious recently, and people have been noticing it, that you can actually do proper music YouTubing and not just sit there acting like a goon. Right. I have got this one here. The first Focus album. This is the one that has got House of the King on it, which I absolutely love. And House of the King was the theme to a TV show when I was a kid, and I don't know what the TV show is. but some of you will know, and you can put that in the comments. It gives you a little bit of interaction with the channel. I know what that is, Andy. I remember it. You don't, but I do. You can put it in there. This originally belonged to Andrew Crosby. If you're out there watching it, I now got your album. I love Focus. I need more albums by them, and I'm slowly going through it. I still don't own a copy of Moving Waves on vinyl, but I now have this one. I have Focus 3, and I have an album coming up in a minute. My Focus collection is terrible, and I love them. Right, so next one on the list. I'm gradually getting on vinyl all the sort of, I would call them prog related Genesis albums. Now I haven't got them all yet on vinyl. You probably think I have, but I haven't. I haven't got Genesis to Revelation. I haven't got Trespass, and I really want a copy of Genesis Live. But I've got Selling England by the Pound, I've got Foxtrot, I've got Nursery Crime, I've got Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, I've got Trick of the Tail, I've got Wind and Wuthering, I have got The Duke, and I think that's as far as it goes. I've got Genesis Live, I've got Seconds Out. I've always felt that the best drumming, and Phil Collins is absolutely one of my favourite drummers, and he's astonishing as a drummer as far as I'm concerned. And I feel his best drumming, or the drumming is at its peak, production-wise and playing-wise, on this album, which people see as a sort of transitional album. It's not one of Genesis' best albums. I think they made a move towards sort of more, moodier tunes, like Undertow, and Follow You, Follow Me. But I love that. Follow You, Follow Me is just such an incredible bit of songwriting. Love that album. Right, so what have we got next? There's a lot to get through. This person I bought them off. For some reason they got the albums outside the covers, so I'm just putting them in as I go. Do two jobs at once. Right. So Jan Akkerman 3 came out in the early 1980s. Jan Akkerman is an incredible guitar player. Now, in the 1970s, he has a penchant for prog. He's never too far away from a lute, is the old Jan Akkerman. But you got the feeling that he could have held his own against the John McLaughlins and Aldo Meolas of this world. He was quite an incredible guitarist, probably technically the best in terms of shredding. He's possibly the best of the progressive rock classic guitarists. Here, this is on, what label's this on here? This is on Atlantic Records. It wasn't on the label I thought it would be on. And what we've got I don't know what this album's like. I haven't listened to it yet. But looking at it, I'm hoping it's Jan Akkerman does jazz rock fusion. He's got Bunny Brunel on bass. Michael Brecker's on here. Lou Marini's on here. Howard Johnson on there. There's a few fusion-y type players. The production will be good at that time. 1982 for me is where production started to change. Any album made 84, 85, you always got to worry about. 82, you usually be all right. There's, the drums still sound like drums. So I want to have, hopefully, a great album of Jan Akkerman at his peak. And for fusion fans, I might come back to that and actually look at his guitar playing. That would be an interesting thing to do. Right. Now, the next thing on the list. Recently, right, I looked past Johnny Winter, the blues guitarist, and I started to look at his brother. I was always been aware of Frankenstein, but when I looked at it, I thought, this bloke's off his head. He plays all the instruments, and he seems to reinvent himself after every album. He's making fusion albums, prog albums, blues albums, all sorts of different albums. And I went and got a CD, which I will have a real deep dive in, and I'm going to come back and have a chat to you about it. But I suppose his most classic album is this one, Edgar Winter. Look at that cover. It's an incredible cover. They Only Come Out at Night, with his band, the Edgar Winter Band, which included the great guitarist, who I haven't really mentioned enough on my channel, Ronnie Montrose. Here he is, who played with everyone from Tony Williams to Herbie Hancock to like Montrose, and was a great guitar player. It's one of these, so we've got this coming out of the middle here. That's quite good. This is the classic album. It's got Frankenstein on it. Right, I don't know much about him, but he is my new favourite artist. He's one of these artists I thought, I missed out on this. I didn't think it'd be like this. I thought it was just going to be like blues, and I made a mistake. We all do it, and I own up to it, you see. I don't sit here saying I know everything. Right, so let's get back to Focus. I've got another Focus album here. What Focus Conprobe, you ask? No, not that one. I've got them at their most proggiest, the Hamburger Concerto. I think once I get Moving Waves, I'll be happy. I've got my Focus vinyl that I need. This was an essential purchase, and I actually don't know this album that well. Jan Ackerman is playing the lute on it. But we have on side 2 the Hamburger Concerto, one of the great sidelong epics. Focus, the greatest European prog band in terms of proper prog, not krautrock or weirdness that's not prog. Are they the greatest? I think they get there's a rival with PFM. It's between PFM and Focus. As a kid, I really loved Focus. I didn't really get into PFM. Right. I'm now going to give you a little bit of a confession here. One of my favourite bands of all time is Jethro Tull. I think their run of albums throughout the 70s is flawless. It rivals Gentle Giant. They never do a bad album at all. They're all brilliant. And that doesn't often come across when you read other appraisals of them. I own one I've got a double album of outtakes, and I've got MU, the best of Jethro Tull. I have a few on CD now. I did have Stand Up on vinyl when I was younger, and I've lost it. So with such a low amount of Jethro Tull albums, I'm trying to get them at a decent price. This is really cheap. And I think I know why. War Child. Now, War Child has my favourite Jethro Tull tune on it, which is Skating Away on the Ice of a New Day. Sometimes Jethro Tull are very impressive in their complexity, but even sometimes it's a bit much for me. I love Passion Play, but it's a bit of a bloody... It's heavy going, that album is. Whereas Skating Away on a Thin Ice of a New Day represents everything I love about Jethro Tull. We've also got Bungle in the Jungle in here. This is from the classic period. I think this is around about 75, isn't it, War Child? I'm not too sure what year it is. Let's have a look, shall we? 74. I was originally going to say 74 as well, and I thought that's a bit later than that. Well, how many incredible albums did they, squeeze in? I reckon that the cover of this album did him no favours. At a cursory glance, when I see it, I always think it's an Ozzy Osbourne album, and then you realise it's not Ozzy Osbourne, it's actually him as a negative, and we've got this. It doesn't look like a Jethro Tull cover, and usually their covers are amazing. It's well done graphically, but I don't know, I just don't like it. You know what I mean? Think of Minstrel in the Gallery or Passion Play, they're all incredible covers. Think of The Brick is one of the classic, most involved covers going. Aqualung with that incredible painting, and I like what's on the back. I think they could have put that on the front, just put, War Child in the middle of that, because it seems to say more, because at least there's a girl with a machine gun on it. They're hanging out with all their friends. They had a lot of weird friends back then, didn't they? I bet Ian Anderson doesn't hang around with people like that now. No. People who like to eat trout or whatever he farms. Right. More prog. I've really had a proggy day this day. A band I own nothing by. I've hardly listened to. I don't know much about them. And that is Curved Air. This is the one of the early albums, the most famous album, I think, which is called Air Conditioning. Great cover, looks like a dartboard in a pub. I think originally this was some sort of picture disc, was it? Is that right? I know nothing about this band. I can tell you what I know about this band. Sonia Christian, can't say it. Sonia, what's her name? Sonia Christina's the singer, a very iconic prog lady there. And of course, Stuart Copeland played for them at some point, but not on this album. Darryl Way was in there playing a bit of violin. I have no idea because there's no details on this about who's on this album. I look forward to have a listen to this one. So yeah. Oh no, it's on the front. Oh, we got Francis Monkman, of course. He was in the band as well. And he's playing lead guitar on here as well. That's weird. I know nothing about Curved Air. It's an area of lack of knowledge. I'm ignorant. So I bought the album and I'll give it a chance sometime. I've got my turntable over here. I might do this for the patrons, actually. It'd be good fun to just play a track off one of these and I'll react to it. These bands I'm not too sure. And here's another prog band that I don't know that well. Or a person, at least. Dave Greenslade. Incredible cover. This was £5. That's obviously Roger Dean, isn't it? If it's not Roger Dean, I'll have to it's Roger Dean, thank God for that. Great. Dave Greenslade made a lot of very prog albums. I tell you what swung this one for me, because I looked at it, I thought, 76, he might be going a bit off the boil. I'm sure it's not the classic Greenslade era. Not that I know anything about him. But when I looked at the lineup, I saw Simon Phillips was on drums and Tony Reeves on bass. On vocals, we've got Steve Gould. Now, I went to the record fair with Steve Gould. You didn't see him in the video, but I did. But I don't think he's singing on this track. That's the Cactus Choir. We got any epics on here? Yeah, we got Finale, which is 8 minutes long. I got a prog, you see. I do love the prog. You think I don't? Right, let's get into the jazz now. But there's not that much jazz, but there's some cool stuff here. Right. If you Googled biggest selling albums in jazz, you're going to find Kinda Blue, aren't you? You might find Weather Report, Heavy Weather. You're going to find Baby Time Out by Brubeck. There's going to be a list of albums that are really the biggest sellers of all time. And nestled in there will be this album. Stanley Jordan, Magic Touch. This sold over 1 million copies when it came out, which is incredible because it's an album of solo guitar pieces. Though, looking on it, we do get Peter Erskine on here at some point. They got the incredible Onajay Alan Gums on here on keyboards, Omar Hakim's on it. So they have got players on it. I didn't realise that. Andy Meola's actually playing the cymbals. That's the last instrument I want him to play. But of course, he shouldn't be playing on a Stanley Jordan album, because Stanley Jordan is perhaps the greatest musical genius of the last 50 years. Watch my interview with him. He blew me and the virtuoso, insane guitarist Roy Marchbank. He was in on the interview. He blew me away. This interview's nearly about 3 hours long. And by the end of it, he's like bloody tuning the universe to modes. He's off his head. And incredible. What this bloke envisaged on this instrument, it's so hard to even to get your head around it. But to have the career he's had and explore all the esoteric and weird stuff he did, he needed to become a rich man. And I feel like it's almost like he came out, made this album, it sold 1 million copies, he made his money, and then he spent the rest of his days doing exactly what he wants. Stanley Jordan is unlike anybody else, right? So, I should own a copy of this, and now I do. I don't know what this one's going to be like. Another weakness I got with jazz rock fusion is the Japanese jazz rock fusion. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, like Cassiopeia, and it's great stuff. I love Cassiopeia, especially the sort of late 70s, early 80s. There's a whole bunch of musicians that are quite astonishing in that genre, and I know nothing about them. There's that Ryo Kawasaki guitarist, great guitarist. I'm not super keen on him, but he's a great fusion guitarist. He's another guy that I know very little about. Sadao Watanabe. Okay, now this album is an 82 album, I believe, so we're just on the edge. Hopefully it's okay. Now, Electro Musician, it's actually 1983. Electro Musician in, I would say, late 80s, did a whole bunch of reissues, and they were very high quality and very good. What was that sound then? Did you hear a gurgling sound? Was that me? That was creepy. Was there a gurgling sound then, or was it just like if I'm getting auditory hallucinations, I want somebody at least saying something like esoteric wisdom in me. I don't know what's going on. Was that my stomach? Oh. It's put me. I'm sorry, Sadao. I've been put off by these. What was that? It's freaked me out. Right. This is one of them. Could be a Fuzak album. Could be cool. Could be somewhere between. And I like high quality Fuzak, as you know. The lineup made me have to buy it, and I think it was only like £2. So you can't go wrong, even if it's a bit Fuzak-y, because as well as Sadao Watanabe on here, we've got Steve Gadd, Marcus Miller, Richard T, Ralph McDonald, Eric Gale, and Grady Tate is singing on it. But that lineup, the sort of Steve Gadd, Marcus Miller, Ralph McDonald, Richard T, and you can swap that bass player out in the older days. You might get somebody else in there occupying that, like Abe Laboriel, perhaps. But you just know where you're at. And even if they're playing the most elevator-filling Fuzak, they'll still be playing it bloody well, right? Right, let's get down to some, before we get to the end with the proper jazz, right? Aldi Meola, one of the jazz rock greats. comes out with his first solo album in 75, Land of the Midnight Sun, and then that run is incredible, isn't it? Land of the Midnight Sun, right? Then we get Elegant Gypsy, Casino. Then he does the double album Splendido Hotel, which has a few dodgy moments, but has some incredible fiery Fusac. And I feel it really is the last hurrah for Fusion. These are the Al Di Meola albums in the early 80s. He does Tour de Force Live, should have been a double album, and it would have been one of the greatest Fusion albums ever made, but it's incredible. And then he does this one, Scenario, and I've never owned a copy of it, which is insane, because the lineup on here is Bill Bruford, Phil Collins, Al Di Meola, Jan Hammer, and Tony Levin. Can you imagine a band that's got both Bill Bruford and I mean, what's Phil Collins doing on here? Let's see if we can find out. He's playing drums. Can you imagine this? And my prog friends, when I was buying these albums, I said, but they go, what's that Al Di Meola album? I said, I quite like him. He could be quite proggy. What's the lineup? So it's got Bill Bruford and Phil Collins on drums and Tony Levin on bass. They go, what the hell's this? Now, it is a great album. I've listened to it a little bit. We are on the sort of descent of Al Di Meola in a sort of a little bit of a... He went on to do it, I've got it on vinyl, Soaring Through a Dream, which is sort of like a Pat Metheny copy. Then he goes all acoustic, starts doing Asta Piazzolla albums, and they're great things, but, you do want him to plug in. And when he came back and plugged his guitar back in with Kiss My Axe, it was never quite the same. His last solo album was monumental, by the way, one of the most complex, intricate, incredibly composed albums going. Right, I've now got 2 classic jazz albums. I'm a big fan of early jazz, right? And there are 3 geniuses of early jazz. Sidney Bechet, which I do not own enough by. Louis Armstrong, which I own tons by. And now this guy that I didn't own anything by, but I do now. And this is a great album. This was £2, this was. Right, Jelly Roll Morton. This label, the Jazz Tribune, brought out a whole bunch of albums, I think in the 80s. 1979, actually. I own the Benny Goodman Small Group album. It's a double album, and it's so well done. And so I think I've pretty much got now the definitive Jelly Roll Morton. Now, you'd be surprised. Jelly Roll Morton stuff, you go and listen to it. We're talking in the 1920s here. When you put it on, you'll go, this is actually quite cool. Like when you listen to Louis Armstrong, it's cool, it's funny, it's funky, it's out there. You could see why people love jazz. Jelly Roll Morton was one of the great geniuses. And the Hot Peppers, that is one of the great bands. And this is absolutely immaculate. You can tell I was really pleased to get this. When I pulled it out, I thought, I'm the only person here who wants this Jelly Roll Morton album. Really want it. £2, that's £1 a disc. Right, and it's like immaculate. I can't get. This was one of the. I'm going to have to look at it. It said it's in mono. What a surprise! Let's have a look at the. Oh, it's just absolutely perfect. RCA. Did this come out in '79 and it's stayed in this condition? Who owned it? Who owned it to keep it in this condition? Whoever did, don't worry, I've got it now. Give it a couple of years and it will look as bashed up as all my other albums. Jelly Roll Morton. And then we get to what I felt was the greatest find of all that day. I've left it right to the end. Right, so I love jazz guitar. Charlie Christian, Django Reinhardt, Joe Pass, Barney Kessel, Jim Hall, Pat Martin. I love the jazz, right? Now, one of my favourite jazz guitarists is the incredible Hank Garland. Now, Hank Garland came from sort of the country end of it, but he was a virtuoso picking guitarist. He did lots of country western sessions. I believe he played with Elvis Presley. But in the early 60s, he went into the studio and made an album called Jazz Winds from a New Direction with Joe Morello on drums, who does some of the greatest jazz drumming ever made, Joe Benjamin on bass, who does an excellent job of holding it all together, and a very young but a very virtuoso Gary Verton on vibes. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. The copy I know and that my friends have, and I've never been able to find to buy, features like a sort of pastoral scene with a bit of grass blowing in the sun. So I was quite surprised to find this. I haven't seen this cover before, right? the feel of the cardboard and the printing and all of that, and the thickness of the vinyl and the label suggests that this could well have been. I mean, that's thick. I don't know if you can see, but that's thick vinyl. That label looks pretty much early 60s, doesn't it? So is this really an original copy of this incredible jazz guitar album in immaculate condition with the original cover that's rare that I managed to find in the £2 bin? Now, when I saw it and picked it up, I said, you could have... He said, it's £14 altogether. I said, I'll give you 15 because that Hank Garland album's worth a little bit more. So actually, I put the price up to £3. The trouble with jazz albums, I don't think they're I don't know. I haven't got on Discogs and checked any of the prices of this thing. Hank Garland, he was an alternate picking demon. He's the join between guitarists like, I mean, Joe Pass is an alternate picking demon, but Hank Garland had a viciousness to his picking which was astonishing. He was the guy that George Benson really got his style from. And at some point, and I can't remember when, it could have been the late 60s, but at some point, Hank Garland, a little bit like Pat Martino, had a car crash and was unable to carry on his career. And he got supported in a certain way. I can't remember what quite happened. There's no mention of it on this, I don't believe. So I imagine this is an original copy. That I was really chuffed to get that. So those are my records. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, like and subscribe. I know it's a bit of a mix of the muchness. I've got to come up with a clickbait title now, so bring the to bring the boys to the yard, But in the end, this is what I enjoyed doing. No research in the end. That is what I knew about the albums. It's a fun thing to do. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one, everybody.